Information, please. Wake up, Mr. and Mrs. America. Time to stump the experts. Here's some information about information, please. Send us questions and the correct answers. If acceptable to our editors, they will be presented to a board of experts for the first time during each broadcast. Any question accepted will win $2 for the person who submits it. Any question the experts cannot answer, and we don't claim they can answer them all, will win an extra $5. The contest will be refereed by our regular master of ceremonies, Mr. Clifton Fadiman, literary critic of the New Yorker magazine. Clifton Fadiman.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I went to the doctor this afternoon, and he told me I had laryngitis, I think it was. But I'm on the air tonight, I said to him. And he said somewhat absent-mindedly, well, that's all right, just don't do any talking. So I'm going to do as little talking as possible this evening and let the experts do it for me. And if you hear an occasional atomizer interrupting the experts, that's me. Now, as for these experts, they're a very right, smart, dandy-looking collection this evening, representing the following fields: music, science, current affairs, sports, entomology, botany, poetry, the classics, history, art, nature study, literature, and taxidermy. The last 10 fields are represented by Mr. John Kieran, who in his spare time runs a sports column in the New York Times. Mr. Bernard Jaffe, who teaches science and writes books about it, is here to answer any and all questions in his domain. Now, if you've been faithfully listening in to these half hours which mingle entertainment, erudition, and bonehead plays, you may remember the brilliant record made in the first two a couple of weeks ago by Mr. Oscar Levant, pianist and composer of both popular and serious music. Mr. Levant is with us again tonight. He's sitting on a chair. There's no piano in front of it, and makes him nervous. Just take it easy, Mr. Levant. Take it easy. Now, as our special guest of honor, I'm proud to introduce to you the world-renowned foreign correspondent, John Gunther, author of Inside Europe, a bestseller on 2 continents. Mr. Gunther has just returned from a year's trip to the Orient, the result of which, he tells me, will be a book called Inside Asia, which will tell us at last how to tell one Chang from another. Now, believe it or not, the fact is these questions are being sprung tonight on our experts for the first, last, and only time. The only thing that may equal their astonishment at what I'm going to ask them will be my astonishment at what they may reply. I will address questions to the entire board. Any member who wishes to may raise his hand and do his worst. The question must be answered by one member, except where it's composed of more than 2 parts, in which case the board may cooperate. But if any part is answered incorrectly, $5 is forfeited. And when you hear that cash register sound, that means $5 is actually being paid out to the lucky questioner. And now, gentlemen, if you'll kindly come out of your 4 comas, we'll get going. The first is really a tough one. I hate to begin with a tough one. I'll ask you to complete 2 of the following 3 limericks. This comes from Miss Jean Atwater, 16 Dunellen Road, Scarsdale, New York. Now, any reasonably good ending for any 2 of the following 3 limericks will be accepted by me in a very generous mood this evening. 1. There was an old man of the Nore, the same shape behind as before. They didn't know where to offer a chair.
So the old man sat down on the floor.
So the old man sat down on the floor is perfectly all right. Credit to Mr. Kieran for that one. 2. There was an old farmer of Brewster who owned a remarkable rooster. The rooster, it died, and the old farmer cried.
Around here, it ain't like it used to.
All right. I'll let that one go. That was from Mr. Kieran, too. Doing better and better. The classic response is because you don't get the eggs that are used to, Mr. Kieran. 3rd, there was a young fellow of Tyre who constantly sat on the fire. When asked, is it hot, he replied, no, it's not.
And wasn't he the awful liar?
The rhythm is terrible, but I'll let the rhyme go. Yes? I'm James Winterbottom, Esquire, is the classic response, Mr. Kieran. But 2 out of 3 is correct, and we'll let that one go. Very good. The second question involves 4 stars. May Robeson, Shirley Temple, Neptune, and Mercury. and it comes from Mr. Joe Kerr of Chicago. It consists of 2 parts. Now, one man has to answer both parts. Here's the first part. May Robeson is now past her 70th birthday. About how old would she be if she had been born at the same time but spent her life on the planet Neptune? Now, the second question, you begin thinking about that first one. The second question is, if Shirley Temple, now past 9, were a native of Mercury, I suppose that would make her the Temple of Mercury, wouldn't it, Mr. Kieran? About how old would she be today? Let's have the first one. May Robeson is now past her 70th birthday. How old would she be if she'd been born at the same time but lived on the planet Neptune? Mr. Jaffe.
I can't give you any exact figures, but she would probably be several thousand years old.
Why would that be so?
Because a year on Neptune runs into
money, I suppose.
Runs into several hundred years. Yes.
Well, it's exactly the opposite. Your idea is correct, but your facts are wrong. May Robeson would be a bouncing baby if they bounce on Neptune, I don't know whether they do, of about a half-year old, not thousands of years old, because a year on Neptune is equal to about 165 years on Earth. Is that clear? She's now 70. What is a year, Mr. Jaffe?
Well, a year is a period of time of one revolution of the Earth around the Sun.
Yes, or any planet.
All right.
Isn't that so?
A good year or a bad year?
Well, we make May Robeson then on Neptune to be about a half-year old. Let's see if we can do better on Shirley Temple. She's now about 9. If she were a native of Mercury, about how old would she be today? Want to take that one, Mr. Jaffe?
Well, reversing the other answer, I suppose she would be about 60 or 70 years old.
Not quite. She'd be 36 years old, which is bad enough for poor Shirley Temple. Because a year on Mercury is about 88 Earth days long. It's a very tough planet for actresses, I should say. Well, that's going to cost us $5. Thank you very much. The third question from Mr. Doyle W. Hunsaker, 3836 Haverhill Drive, Toledo, Ohio. Name 5 song titles containing the name of some musical instrument. 5 song titles containing the name of some musical instrument. Now, you can all get together on this.
Piccolo Pete.
Piccolo Pete is correct. That was Mr. Levant speaking. That's 1. Any musical instrument will do.
I'm fascinated by Piccolo Pete.
Want to count that twice, too, Mr. Levant?
We can change Pete.
Change Pete to Piccolo Joe. Oh, I'll only count that for 1 so far. Unless you smile at me that way again, Mr. Levant.
I'm frowning.
You can't think of another, Mr. Levant?
Gabriel, blow your horn.
That's 2. Now, Mr. Levant, don't be modest. You know there's one in your mind that you're refraining to name.
Lady, play your mandolin.
Yes. He wrote that himself, gentlemen and ladies. That's 3.
How about using that twice?
No, we'll have to have 2 more legitimate ones.
No advertising on this program.
No advertising on this program. No, Mr. Kerr.
That sounds good.
How about 5 little fingers and 5 little toes? Oh, I'll let that one by. Mr. Gunther.
Bluebells of Scotland.
Bluebells of Scotland is perfectly all right. Bells are a musical instrument.
Chimes of Normandy. It's not a song, though.
That makes 4 1/4.
An opera.
Let's see if we can't get 1 more legitimate one.
Music goes round and round.
Yes, but it's not a musical instrument, would you say?
It comes out something.
Yes, I know. What did I hear you say, Mr. Levant? Oh, Bo, oh, joy, where do we go from here? No, we can't allow that one. 1 more.
Piccolo Pete.
Piccolo Pete, Piccolo Pete. You know, somehow that's beginning to sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen, Piccolo Pete.
Well, there's a banjo song when banjo so-and-so
Banjo
plays.
on your knee.
All right, banjo on your knee. I just slid them by on that one. The next comes from Miss Mary Johnson of Cleveland. What events of international interest originated or occurred in the following cities last week? I'm going to name 4 cities, and you have to answer 3 out of 4. 1, Buenos Aires. Volunteers on that. Buenos Aires. I'm doing so well on Buenos Aires.
It was a big bullfight.
I beg pardon?
It was a big bullfight.
Mr. Kieran, you're guessing. And you never do that, Mr. Kieran. Now, if you take Mr. Kieran off birds and put him down in Buenos Aires, he's lost. There was a treaty of peace and friendship and so forth, which ended the war between Bolivia and Paraguay about the Chaco. It was signed there. Do you remember that, Mr. Gunther, or have you just come back from China?
I've been in Westport, Connecticut, which is a long ways from Buenos Aires.
Yes, long way. I haven't got Westport down here. We'll see if we can fix that up for you in a couple of weeks from now. Second, Paris. Well, that's one you can get. Paris. That's in France. Paris.
Well, there's been a very serious international crisis in regard to the Czechoslovak problem and the visit, of course, of the King and Queen of England there, which played into that problem.
That's quite right. Third, Cork. Cork Island.
That's where Mr. Corrigan landed, I believe.
No, I don't think that's quite true.
No, he landed in
Where'd he land?
Cardonal Aerodrome outside of Dublin.
Yes, he landed outside of Dublin, it was. Now, how about Cork? Maybe we can pick up Cork from somebody else here. Well, the port of Cork last week was turned over to Ireland by England. Mr. Gunther, wouldn't you admit that any time England turns over something to another nation, that's news, and you ought to know
It certainly is.
Yes. Well, that's 2. 2 wrong. How about Foynes? F-O-Y-N-E-S. That really is a tough one. I'll give you a hint. Foynes.
Did one of the planes, the pickeback planes, come through Foynes or from Foynes?
That's correct. It took off from Foynes. However, we had only 2 out of 4, and that's going to cost us $5. Did pretty well. I think those were rather tough cities. Next, from Mr. John L. Fuller, 408 Ashby Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Identify 5 of the following. I have 7 words here. I'll read them rapidly, and then I'll read them slowly. Dodo, Zobo, Koto, Yo-Yo, Popo, Bolo, and Loco Foco. Perfectly simple. Dodo. Volunteers on Dodo. Mr. Jaffe.
That's an extinct bird.
Good. Zobo, Z-O-B-O. Now, the only one who ought to get that is Mr. Gunther, and I don't think he ought to get it either, for that matter.
Zobo doesn't sound very political to me.
No, it isn't political.
Is that a hair remover?
No, Mr. Levant, it's not a hair remover. Zobo is an Asiatic milk-giving cow or some kind of cattle. Mr. Gunther, in your
I never met it in my
you
travels.
meet the Zobo?
No, I met other animals of various kinds, but not the Zobo.
Not the Zobo. That's one wrong. Koto, K-O-T-O. Koto, K-O-T-O. Well, Mr. Gunther, you might possibly know that from your Oriental experience, too.
Well, if you put a Y in it, it would be a very important city in Japan.
Do you want me to put a Y in it for you?
I'd like you very much to put a Y in it.
That'll cost you $5 for me to put a Y in it for you. No, Koto is a Japanese musical instrument. And, of course, if you didn't make
The only Japanese musical instruments I heard made a different kind of noise.
Well, that's 2 wrong. Both on the Orient. How about yo-yo? Y-O, space, Y-O. Mr. Gunther.
That's a game.
Good. It's a novelty toy top. Popo. P-O-P-O, Mr. Jaffe.
Isn't that the abbreviation for the mountain in Mexico?
Yes, but you'll have to pronounce it.
Popocatépetl.
Nice work. That's correct. 6, Bolo, B-O-L-O. There are 2 possible answers for that. Mr. Gunther?
Well, one is a nickname for Bolsheviks.
Yes, that's right. There are 3 then.
Oh, it's a kind of sword that was used in the Philippine Islands,
That's
I believe.
right. And I can think of one other meaning for Bolo.
Is it perhaps a kind of card game?
It may be. Wasn't there a man named Bolo Pasha?
Oh, yes.
A spy in France or something around the time of the opening of the war?
Yes.
All right, okay on Bolo. And last, Loco Foco. L-O-C-O-F-O-C-O. Loco Foco.
The swing dance.
Mr. Levant, you made that up, too. Loco Foco. Mr. Kieran, you look very intelligent.
No, it's a mistake. It's a fake. I think it's a Spanish term. I don't know whether it refers to a fuel or a crazy fire or something of that kind.
Fuel, did you say?
Yes.
I mean F-U-E-L?
Yes.
Wonder whether I ought to allow that. Loco Foco is a friction match. Did you know that, Mr. Kieran?
No, I didn't know.
Didn't know that. Well, I'm afraid that's going to cost us $5.